Hey family, welcome to How Love Works, where we talk about the principles for lasting love. Well, as you can see, I'm in another position today, one where I can get a little break from standing. I've been pretty busy here, and I was really seriously considering not doing a review this past week of Married at First Sight. And my reasons behind that are really simple. I really think that the group that they've selected this particular season by far has been the worst that I have seen. Maybe, uh, maybe there have been others that are worse, but I have to also admit I haven't been watching all of them. But this group here by far has to have been the worst. So what I decided to do was take a talk about the two main takeaways that I got, and it's going to require that I read something to you so that you have some understanding of where I'm coming from. I'm going to be reading something from a very familiar area in the Bible that you guys, I'm sure, even those of you who are not Bible scholars or even Bible believers, are familiar with. This comes from First Corinthians chapter 7. Uh, I'm sorry, First Corinthians chapter 13. And it's a well known verse or well known chapter. It's called the love chapter, right? So I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then I'll go ahead and give my review. And I'll give it my best shot at least. First Corinthians chapter 13, it says, if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all possessions to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I am nothing. Love is patience. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. But when the perfection comes, the perfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. Now we see but a poor reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Now, I read that because the main takeaway that I received from watching the show was not the L word, but the main takeaway that I got was the practice of love, the practice of love and the lack thereof, and or the ignorance thereof. And from the notes that I took, it was pretty apparent to me that I don't really think any of them gonna make it. Honestly, I just don't see it. I mean, I'm probably gonna be wrong, maybe one, but I don't really see any of them making it. Because they just, first of all, they all think they're in a love relationship. First of all, they all think that the fact that they got married, that automatically puts them in a love relationship. But in essence, as I said last week, all five couples are in an arranged marriage. And as I said, and as I continue to say, an arranged marriage is a totally different beast. It is a horse of a totally different color, meaning that the emphasis is not on romance and sex and passion. The emphasis is on compatibility, complementarity, and character, and the commitment. That's the emphasis, the commitment itself, because the commitment allows now the space for individuals to love. It validates, and it gives love the opportunity to grow, and it can take its time because the commitment protects it, the commitment covers it. But because America does what America does best, America has taken something sacred like marriage and even arranged marriage and the commitment of marriage, and they have commercialized it, politicized it, and they have minimized it to such an extent that the commitment itself is not even the issue. The only thing that matters is the feelings and the passion and the sensuality, and you can see vividly that none of that works. None of it is working. It's not holding people accountable. It's not helping people to understand their responsibilities in the relationship. And everyone is still hyper focused upon their rights in the relationship rather than the responsibility to the relationship that they should be accountable to. That's just my perspective. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead on and let's deal with Mika and Michael. Uh, I know that Mika and Michael, they are an interesting match. I know they were just matching them based upon the information set before them. Mika is obvious. It's obvious to me now that she has some really substantial issues with insecurity, and even so much so that when Michael, I'll give you an example, like when Michael was sharing with her that he decided against taking the job as a principal, she automatically read into what he said and assumed and became very suspicious of even his full disclosure. He was fully transparent in telling her why he did not take the position, and she automatically decided to assume that there's something totally suspicious. There's more to the story that he's holding back on, and she's claiming and now creating an accusation in her own mind and doubt in her own mind and suggesting now that he's lying to her again. She has not learned, just based upon what I read in the Bible, referring to what love is. she's already violating many of those principles that are outlined in the scripture that I just read. She just automatically decided, okay, I'm just going to hold this against him. I'm going to hold, what I mean is, she's already upset about what started out, how their relationship started out in the marriage. And so because of that, she has never been able to get over. Never been able to get over. So anytime he is transparent one way or the other, she decides that there must be some ulterior motive, and it's also going to be a negative ulterior motive. So I don't see any way that that situation is ever going to clear itself. I just can't see it happening. Now that's Mika and Mike. All right. And as I said, I'm looking at this information, and I'm saying to myself, this young lady, I don't know if anyone will be able to have a relationship with her going forward. Because if you make an error in judgment, if you make a misstep, or you say the wrong thing, from that day forward, she's going to keep score. And anytime you get into a disagreement with her, instead of getting hysterical, she's going to get historical on you, and she's going to rehash all the information, which is another fatal attraction. It's a negative fatal attraction that a lot of young ladies fall into. And every time you have one of those negative fatal attractions, it has the result of pushing the man away and shutting him down, and or having him getting a little agitated and angry because he recognizes he's dealing with a Teflon person where nothing sticks to them. They never are accountable for their behavior or even their egregious superiority mindset, that no, they're the only people who can ever get anything right and everybody else is wrong. So that's another issue all by itself. So now I want to look at Austin and Jessica. Austin and Jessica. Now Austin, um, Jessica's biggest issue with him right now is that he told her that the last time he told a young lady that he loved her, is it took him a year to do so. And that, that kind of, as I mentioned before, I think in the last episode, maybe I did, but that kind of set her back. But she rolled with it. To her credit, she rolled with it. And I think when she went and took him out and let him hit some balls, she still has some reservations. And but what's interesting to me about those two is that they genuinely actually like each other. They genuinely are attracted to one another. And I would think that if any of the couples make it, it would most likely be those two. So my thing is if she can just kind of understand the relationship that she is in, and understand that the responsibility that she needs to focus on is she needs to start loving him. She doesn't need to hear him say that he loves her. She needs to be paying attention and making sure that she's seeing him love her, that she sees the actions of love. Because what you heard me read just a little while ago is those are the practices of love. You want to see the practices of love. The people that I just named, Mika and Mike, and all the other couples, one of the reasons that they are going to break up, in my view, is because they don't know how to practice love. Anybody can give you the pretty sounding words and say they love you all day. I know men who have slapped their girls around and then tell them that they love them. I don't know what it is about that phrase, but it doesn't mean anything without the accompanying behavior, conduct, character, personality. It doesn't mean anything. It's just words. Okay? But some women can't get past the words. And then when they end up leaving or divorcing these guys, it's not because the guy wasn't saying the words, it's because he wasn't living the words. He wasn't practicing the words. And so here we are in a situation where in the arranged marriage, the words are not necessary. What's necessary is the commitment, and then you build on the commitment and you start actually practicing. And that's how you start to get to the point over time where you can say you love that individual wholeheartedly. And the women in those arranged marriages, they understand that. They going in knowing that they don't love the guy, and they know the guy doesn't really love them, but they love the commitment. They love the concept of marriage. They love the concept of family. They love the concept of growing together. And so they know they have the foundation for love because they have the commitment there to foster love. But they want it to be automatic, and that's not going to work. But if you don't know how to even practice love, it's not going to work. Okay. Now, if I'll say this last thing about Jessica, if she can't get past some of her hangups, which I think they're majoring in the minor, a lot of the women as well as the men here, that's why a lot of this nonsense is not going to fly. They major in the minors and they let the major stuff that matters, like the commitment and the growth that's involved. They don't want love to grow slowly and watch the practices that come out of the growth. They don't want to do that. Nah. What they want to do is hear all the lovey-dovey stuff, experience all the sensuality and the passion and all that. And now look at them. All of them pretty much have done a lot of that. Not all of them, but most of them. And nothing has come from it. Nothing. All right. Now, who's the next one here? Brandon and Taylor. Ha ha. Brandon and Taylor. Well, Brandon has proven to me once again that he is not in the position, as far as I can tell, he's not in the position to be in a relationship really with anyone, with any female of any kind. One reason is because he's not patient, he's not kind, he's not gentle, he certainly is rude. And I think when she being Taylor was trying to, have a conversation with him where he could be a little bit more original. And I think when she mentioned being more original, what she actually was suggesting is that, he needs to be a little bit more forthright in, how he really feels inside, what he really thinks about this relationship. She needs him to initiate a little bit more. And I think that the fact that I will say she has some issues with that video obsession she has. I would be honest with you. I would have some issues with it myself. But I think that what I would have done is, because I am a little older and I have a little more life history, I think off camera, I think I might have, when we were in the bed together, I think I might have suggested that under certain circumstances, maybe um, she can forego some of this videotaping and not tape every incident, everything we do. And so then at the same time, I think I would have tried to initiate a little bit more routine. Well, I don't want to say that. I would have started initiating some couple habits that we can do together. Maybe take some daily walks. We walk together with the dog, and we can communicate there. Because again, my thing is the commitment itself. I made a commitment. I'm all in. So I want to talk to her about her career. I want to find out her passions. I want to be as curious as I can about her as I need her to be about me. And those things they should be doing. but they're not doing it. And so, when she got frustrated, she made dinner, she did all these things for him. And of course, he got a little upset when she took a picture of the food. He was done at that point. He had already went from 0 to 60 by then. So he was controlling himself. He didn't want to melt down. So he got upset, took the food into the kitchen, went into his little video games. And, like I said, that's his thing. If you're not on the same page with him and you're not flowing with him the way he thinks you should be flowing, then as far as he's concerned, you're dead to him. That's his whole attitude. And so he's not someone who I think has the capacity at this point to be in a loving, lasting relationship, because he's not the kind of man that's willing to cultivate. He's not the kind of man that has the patience to be in a relationship, because it requires an enormous amount of patience, and you just have to have a caring, giving, cultivating heart to do that. Now, that's Taylor, and that's Brandon. As far as I can tell, that situation is a wrap anyway. They're not going to stay together. If they do, it'll just be for the cameras, and they're going to break up later anyway, because there's nothing there. All right. And I'll say the same thing. I'm not even going to deal with Mindy and Zach. They're just going through the motions until the end of the show, and they're going to go the opposite direction. So I'm not even going to deal with them. The last one I'm going to talk about is, I think, what are those guys' name? It's Derek and Katie. Now, Derek and Katie, Derek still, like I always say, he's waiting on the fantasy. He thinks love, he has to find it. See, he has a passive uh, uh, attitude, and he has a what I would call a what generation is he in? He's a millennial, and they have this idea, this entitlement thing. And so, he's going to wait on something as powerful as love to come, tap him on the shoulder and say, okay, it's your turn now. You now are in love. Yay. Right? Now, here's the problem with that. You're in a committed relationship with a woman. Now, I'm not buying all the stuff she's talking about where she has to hear the words "I love you" and you have to convince her that you are actually in love with her, and you have to do it on this time limit, because I recognize she doesn't know, nor does he recognize, that they're in an arranged marriage, and they don't even know what that means. I get it. But at the same time, you know, he's upset about the fact that she's holding it against him that he has never fallen in love with anyone. The reason he has never fallen in love with anyone is because he doesn't need to fall in love with anyone. What he needs to do is create an environment for love to grow. That's with any female. You create the environment by setting a boundary, and that boundary is a commitment. Whether that boundary is going to be labeled marriage or it's going to be labeled girlfriend or whatever it is, you have to set that boundary, set that commitment. Then once you set that commitment, then now you start to actively loving that person. You actively start loving that person. You start practicing, seeking their highest good, their happiness, their health, right? You start cultivating on that person. You start meeting their needs, start caring for them. That's loving them. And then guess what will happen as you start loving? You will start to feel the feelings, but love is a verb, it's an action. You need to start doing that. That's when you are, in fact, you are putting forth the effort so that now love is now growing, and then love will actually start to take residence in your heart. And it won't be something that you just have to think you have. You will know by doing, by living it out. You will be practicing love. But until he starts to realize that and he catches that concept that love is not something you trip over, love is not something you fall into, love is not something that you wait on a feeling to hit you. Love is not something that comes with an individual woman that inflates your ego or you get infatuated by. None of that is true. The only thing matters is love is, do you know how to love? Because just because you feel these certain feelings, that doesn't mean you know how to love. It just means you know how to feel some feelings that you label as love. Do you know how to take care of a woman? Do you? If you're a woman, do you know how to take care of a man? Do you know how to make his life, not necessarily your goal is to make him happy, but do you know how to influence his life so that he can be enhanced as an individual? And vice versa for a man. Do you know how to make a woman's life more abundantly, more abundant? Can you do that? Can you cultivate her, making her a better person? Can you do that? Can you care for her needs in sickness and in health? Till death do you part. For richer, for poor. Can you do that? When the circumstances change and the winds change and the weather changes, it's not sunny anymore. Can you do that? Can you love unconditionally? That's love. That's not Hollywood. That's real love. If you can, then you understand what the real meaning of married at first sight means. That's my time. I thank you for yours. I catch you on the other side. God bless you.